Hi everyone, I'm Monique and I'm creating a page for Lottie Loves Paper today using the gorgeous new collection from Vicki Boutin called Colour Study. I've got one of her patterned papers here called a sketchbook, and I'm just drawing a rough line where I'd like to tear the paper, purely so that I can save as many of those gorgeous florals as possible. I'm actually going to be using the reverse side of this pattern paper, but I find it helpful to do it on the floral side just so that I know which florals I'm going to be saving. So you can see that pattern paper is a beautiful ombre from a jade green all the way down to a lime. And here I'm using one of her new Colour Study stencils. It echoes that pattern paper, so it's the same kind of pattern. And I'm using some of her textured paste and just adding some stenciling to the top left and bottom right hand side. I've left it to dry. And now I'm adding some water, and I've realized I've made a really silly mistake. I used textured cardstock and I didn't prep it, so that water and pigment powder is just soaking right through, and I'm not happy with how that's looking. So I've grabbed some of her foundations paper, which I should have used in the beginning, either that or some prepped cardstock, having used gesso, and here I'm just going to be doing that stenciling again. So I'm just going over again with Vicki Boutin's texture paste, and I've waited for it to dry, and now I'm adding some water. Now I've got some of her pigment powders from a previous collection, and there's 3 gorgeous greens in there that really tie in so beautifully with this pattern paper. So like a jade green, an emerald and a lime, and I'm really focusing on the lighter tones for the bottom of this ombre paper, so more lime. And I'm kind of putting some colour on, dabbing it up, adding more colour just until I get the shade that I would like. I really just want it to be a subtle background colour, so I love the vibrancy of these colours that you see here, but I do just want it to be really, really subtle. So I'm just dabbing it up and then building on it until I get colours that I'm happy with and that I like. So here I'm just adding those 3 colours again, and I think this is my last bit of adding, and then I'm happy with how that looks. So this is a cut file from Vicki Boutin as well, and I cut it in black cardstock on my cutting machine, and I should have done a second one on white, but I forgot to and then deleted everything, so I'm just stenciling it onto white cardstock and I'll cut it out. I'm using one of her beautiful floral stamps from her Colour Study collection, and I'm just stamping a whole pile of those with a black ink that doesn't bleed when painted with watercolours. So now I'm just going to cut all of those out, ready to paint with some watercolour. But before I do that, I'm just going to back this whole floral cluster with some vellum. So I'm just going around the edges with some Nouveau glue, and I do find it doesn't stick too well to vellum. I think it's a bit maybe glossy and it doesn't adhere as well, but I've managed to get it stuck down, and I'm just cutting around the full cut file, which takes a little while, but I get there in the end, and I quite like how that looks, and it's going to allow the pattern paper to shine through some of those florals that I'm not planning to add white cardstock on top of. So here I'm just taking all those little petal pieces that I'd cut out. I'm kind of jigsawing them back together just to see where they go. And now I'm going to take them all off again and I'm going to paint them. I'm using some gorgeous shimmery rainbow watercolours from Campbella, and I'm just painting in this kind of fuchsia colour, and again I want to have a bit of an ombre effect, so a darker pink in the middle, fading right out. So I'm just using water to kind of let that bleed. I'm by no means an expert at any of this. I'm new to using watercolours, but I absolutely love playing around with them, and I find that's the best way to learn, is just playing and seeing what works and what doesn't. So I paint all the petals, and I do eventually go back and go over them again just to intensify the colour, but for now I'm just showing you the first coat before moving on to painting those little individual stamped florals. So I'm just using the same watercolours in various different shades, and I'm just using quite a intense shade in the centre, and then I'm using some water to fade it out to the tips of the petal. Then I'm going back in with another contrasting colour, well, that blends in nicely. So here I'm using some orange and just letting it bleed up the petals a little bit. So I'm also using some blue. With regards to the florals, I've kind of stuck with yellow, blue and pink. I love those 3 shades together, and it works really, really well with the green background. So here I'm using a nice bright turquoise, and I'm going to go in the middle with a dark kind of royal blue, which just fades and blends really nicely into that vibrant turquoise. These paints are so shimmery and they just work beautifully on this floral stamp. I'm going to be layering these flowers on top of the cut file. They're not an exact match to the daisies, if they're daisies on that cut file, but they'll work quite nicely dotted in between, with the vellum kind of showing the green background through them as well.
I could be who you want, 'cause I know that I need to be happy too. And then things turn to dust when I bluff just to mess up and tell the truth. All I hear is an echo, turn the words that we say to ammo. Sleeping on the side of the bed though, weeks of gone, can't let go.
And here you can just really see that shimmer. So now I'm going back in and I'm replacing all those little petals, doing my jigsaw again and finding the right place. I'm now going to pick them up individually and bend them a wee bit, and then put some tacky glue just in the centers and keeping those petals raised at the edges, just to kind of give it a realistic 3D look. So I go around sticking them all on individually. Now I've got a beautiful selection of rainbow sequins. So I've got my yellow ones, and there's various shades, and some are opaque, some are more of an orangey shade, some are more yellow, and I love the variety in there. It just gives it a nice realistic feel with there being the different shades and sizes. And I've got no rhyme or reason really how I'm doing this. I'm just adding them into the center, placing them on top of each other, layering them nicely, adding a few gems in between. I do go in and add a few pinky red ones as well, just so that it's not all one tone. There you can see the red ones added in, and I've done some blue as well. Again, just layered those sequins and added a few gems as well. Now I'm going to be doing the same to all these flowers, starting with the blue, and I've got 2 shades of blue. Again, different sizes of sequins, and I'm just layering them on top of each other and dotting little gems in here and there as well.
I could be who you want, 'cause I know that I need to be happy too. And then things turn to dust when I bluff just to mess up and tell the truth. All I hear is an echo, turn the words that we say to ammo. Sleeping on the side of the bed though, weeks of gone, can't let go. I go crazy when you call my name, make me lose my game. When you call my name, I go crazy, 'cause I can't escape.
And there you can see the shimmery detail in the center of those florals. So now I am sticking on this gorgeous patterned paper, and it fits perfectly on top of that background, and I'm just ruffling up the torn edges just to add a little bit of texture and dimension before adding on the cut file on top. So I'm using foam squares. I'm using I think it's about a 2mm thick foam square on here. The little florals that I add on top of that, I use a slightly thicker, fatter foam square, just to create 2 different heights. So now I'm just playing around to see where I like those florals and where best they'll work. Just fiddling around until I find the perfect spot. I've decided I want to back that photo with some of this gorgeous floral, and I've torn 2 of the edges, and I'm going to distress the other 2 using my scissors. So I do want a rough look just to kind of echo the torn paper in the background. And I wanted to go over the torn edge above the photo just so that there's not a strange little gap hiding there. So I've moved it up a little bit so we don't have any random gaps. And now I'm just going in with the slightly fatter foam dots and just adhering those to the page. And you can see the little vellum flowers in the background just peeking out there quite subtly in the background. And here I've come in with a chipboard sticker and added some foam squares to the back just for an extra bit of height. And this is one of the Colour Study cardstock stickers, and I've just taken off one of the little black phrase stickers from the sticker book, and I'm going to fiddle around here for quite a while. I've stuck those down and picked out some of the gold dots from the sticker book, and I fiddled for ages. I'm not happy with how the pink phrase sticker looks at the bottom, so I do fiddle around quite a bit until I'm happy, and I eventually remove that pink phrase sticker. Even though I quite like the sentiment, it just isn't working for me. I don't know if maybe there's too much pink or it's creating a column there, but once I remove it, it all kind of comes together and I'm much happier with how it looks. So I just can't get those gold dots to work properly around those phrase stickers, but there I've added that little black phrase strip there, and I'm much happier and managed to find the right spot for those gold dots. And now I'm just using some black paint splatters. It's just my kids' poster paint, and that just gives off the perfect finishing touches. And here you can see all the shimmer from those sequins, and I just love how this cut file works so well with Vicki Boutin's gorgeous Colour Study collection. And here's some close-ups. Thank you so much for watching. I hope something's inspired you today and that you enjoy creating with this gorgeous collection. Bye.